William Hill Sportsbook of the Year award for 2014 was won by Anna Crane and her book Night Games, and you can find my interview with Anna on YouTube, Vimeo and at www.vgtips.co.uk. I know the panel were somewhat split, the panel of judges, a tough decision to make which book to choose as the winner, and that Gareth Thomas, proud, came close to doing so. Gareth, the Welsh rugby player, combined with the award-winning sports journalist Mike Calvin to produce what is a very good read indeed, and I heartily recommend it. I caught up with the pair in London in November in 2014.
It's one of these things, when you're writing a book, you're in this vacuum, tapping away. And what we've discovered since the book has come out is there's a human impact of the book. Now, all books give you a form of immortality because they're there for life, aren't they? But we've done a speaking tour, Gareth and I, and it's really marked how the impact of the book is deeply personal. And you know, we've had lots of different people telling us their stories. So you've got brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, all telling us how the experience of coming to terms with a loved one who has finally had the courage to come out and be true to themselves. And that's been profoundly moving, really moving. And I know it does sound really trite. Now, when we were doing the book, because it was such an extreme way to do the book, we said, look, we think we can save lives. Now that, as I said, sounds really false and trite, but actually, we've already had experiences that suggest that has been the case, where this is a story of one man's journey from darkness to light, and yeah, it's been very, very, it's been a privilege to be part of it.
Tell me about the Gareth Thomas, age 16. What was he going through?
Yeah, it was difficult. You know, he was becoming successful in sport or in rugby. You know, people were starting to talk about him, but you know, underneath all that, there was a fear because the more people that recognised him, the more uncomfortable he became. And I suppose the more opportunity there was for people finding out the one thing that he felt, you know, was the one thing I didn't want anybody to know about.
Yeah.
And that was probably the real person that was sometimes busted to get out, yet I was fighting to keep it. And the more people maybe pulled to get that real person out, and the harder it would be to hide him.
Living a lie, living a secret life can be exhausting.
Yeah.
How long did you live that lie?
Basically from the day I had the first feelings really that I felt, weren't what stereotypically the area I lived in or the life I was living felt natural to be. So, from that moment, but also I think when you play sport, I think, even if you decide to lie or not, sometimes you get stereotypically put straight into a category because you decide to play sport. But people assume straight away that, you are a certain way. So
The Sporting Life, do you remember the film This Sporting Life with Richard Harris?
Yeah. So, I think that, we live in a society where it is, you're put straight into a stereotypical category before you decide to say anything else, and sometimes when you put into a category it's hard to get out of it.
Lots of shocking revelations in the book. I was absolutely fell off my chair to discover you had a crush on Lee Majors, aka $6 million man.
Who did that, I think.
Charlie's Angels.
That's where the difference lies.
Were your happiest playing days for Bridgend?
Yeah, definitely. It's the town I knew, it's the people I knew, and I think when you relate to a place, I think when you play for a place that you have an understanding of, not only the culture but the people that live within that town, then you have it becomes more than just a game. It becomes something where you realise that your success or your failure deems how the town lives its life. So with that pressure, I think is a great pressure because you think of the success you have, and you think of the way that you can send people to a job they hate on a Monday morning with a smile on their face. And that's a nice pressure to have.
And captain in Wales meant more to you than captain in Bridgend.
Oh yeah. Wales again is because I understand the culture of Welsh people. I understand what it means to the people of Wales to win. And when you represent a country in a team, then it's the magnitude of 3 million people hanging on every move you make or every action you take in a rugby game, and that's a huge burden to carry, but also one, like I said, with the Bridgend thing, if you're successful with it, and it comes great rewards. And again, the magnitude of Bridgend was huge, but when you take that and add it to the magnitude of the country, then it means so much more. And in a country that is sometimes deemed a lot smaller than the other countries you play against, then sometimes you can be that bridge between a small country and a large successful country through success in sport. And that's what success meant to me. It meant I could be, meant to be a part of my country, raising its profile and kind of raising the ambition of people in it.
Well, it's a great read, and you've every reason to be proud of it.
I'm extremely proud of it, yeah.
We define rugby players by physical courage. He's got immense moral courage, more than probably anyone I've ever met. As a man, there's a loyalty to him, to those around him, but also to his country. And again, you look at nationalism in sport, it can distort things. But through Gareth's eyes, he has given me a completely different idea of what it means to represent one's country. We went to a place called the Devil's Chair, which is at the top of the valleys between the Ogmore Valley and looking down into the Rhondda. And he used to go there on Fridays before he captained his country, just to get a sense of what he was representing. The shale beneath his feet. He looked out at a landscape which was scarred by mining, rows of terraced houses. He got an idea of what sport meant to the people around him, the community that he was representing. And I'd never heard a sportsman talk in those deeply emotional terms about what it means to play sport for one's country. And as part of the process, the WRU allowed us into the deserted Millennium Stadium. And these stadia they're populated by ghosts. And we were in the dressing room, and I sat him in the area where he sat as a captain, which is the corner, the alcove. He's in the alcove, and he was talking about what it means to captain one's country, the process of getting a team ready in that hour before a big international. Looking out. The one who's crying when normally is quiet, the one who's shouting when he's normally in the corner saying nothing to anyone. So that was, a real vivid insight into what playing sport at the highest level means.
But it wasn't the only place you went back to him with to try and re-envision this story.
Well, there were some suicidal moments in his career. There was suicidal episodes in Toulouse at the house that he shared with his wife. The most demanding day that we did was we spent the morning in a graveyard, and it was the church at which he was married, and there was intermittent rain, and we were talking about death and despair, divinity, and then we got in the car, drove along the coast road, and walked about 1.5 miles over some fields to the point where he was going to end his life. It was a cliff top overlooking the Bristol Channel, and we talked through the process, and I said, where are we going to go from? And there's about a 200-foot drop, something like that, and there's this very small path, no more than 5 metres in length, and there was the rock on which he was going to leap from, and that was about 1 metre square, and we stood there together and talked about it. Now it's very strange, because there was an onshore wind on that day, the tape is indistinct, but I can remember every last syllable of that conversation. It's etched in my brain. So that was really profoundly moving. There was a degree of closure for him. But when we went back to his mum's house that night, I wondered whether we pushed it too far, because he sort of collapsed in a reclining leather chair next to his dad, who just finished his post-rap. And I looked at his face, and it had that sort of pale parchment type flavour. And I thought, wow, you're pushing yourself here. And it was not until later that I realised that he'd lost weight, had difficulty sleeping. And it goes right back to what I said right at the start. He's a man of fantastic moral courage to do that.
A working relationship, something I should have learned about between ghostwriter and subject. What's the secret? What's important?
Well, what I said to Gareth, I didn't want to be a ghostwriter. There's a degree to which I'm a visible ghost in this, I suppose. But the key to it is, and it's something we talked for about probably a year before we did this, and he says that the one thing that I said to him which made him convinced that he needed to do it was I said, look, I've got to get behind your eyes. I've got to see what you see. I've got to hear what you hear. I've got to think like you. And because it was an incredibly intimate process, we managed to do that. And it's something which was pretty special, to be honest.
There must be other gay rugby players who are still leading a double life, footballers for sure. We will see.
Look at the stats. Sportsmen are human beings. First, second.
But Gareth's coming out hasn't led to lots of others.
As I said, what I feel is very. He's had an impact on a much broader level than sport. He can walk down the street. He tells the story of another Gareth who stopped him in the street in Cardiff in his 50s. So I'd just like to tell you my story if you've got 5 minutes. And it was Gareth had when he made his comeback, when on the day that he came out, Cardiff played in shocking pink, their second kit. And what happened was that Gareth, his friend, had dinner had his entire family around to dinner, dressed up in a blue shirt. Then when the dessert was coming around, he left the table, went upstairs and changed into a pink shirt. And when he came downstairs, his family said, "What are you doing? Why have you changed?" He said, "Well, look, if Gareth Thomas can come out as a gay man wearing a pink shirt, so can I." And so there is a lifetime of angst and anxiety dispelled, and someone sort of flourishing within the bosom of his family. So it was a really fantastic thing. Fantastic.
Well done. It's a good read.
Thank you, mate.
And thank you for telling me why I failed with Johnson. I didn't get behind his eyes. Thank God for that.
But you got under his skin.